Andrew Roraback is Connecticut's Republican nominee in the 5th District congressional race.
Yes, and he is an 18-year veteran state lawmaker, state senator. He's a lawyer. He's from the town of Goshen, and we're just so happy to have you here, sir.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Al. It's great to be here.
Now, I want to ask you first, what do you think about the pick of Ryan, Paul Ryan, this guy with a very tight budget in mind and all that? And I know you're very much interested in keeping a control on spending. I know you've said that. But what do you think about picking him as a running mate?
Well, I think, Al, his selection ensures that the national debate is going to focus on getting ourselves out of the economic pickle that we're in as a nation. And whether you agree with Representative Ryan's budget or disagree with it, and there are parts of it I like and there are other parts of it I don't like it. Well, I think that there are many aspects of it that go too far in terms of compromising the safety net that we as a nation have built for ourselves.
But if you go if you say they go too far, and so you cut the amount of the cuts, then you've got to raise revenue somewhere, some other place.
Well, or we have to find other places to economize on spending. I mean, the reality is we're going to have a long conversation over the next 11 weeks about what the right prescription is for what ails us as a nation. And I think that the choice of Representative Ryan is going to focus the national debate where it should be, which is how do we get out of the mess that we're in. I mean, the reality is that the paralysis that's gripped our country has served nobody's interests. And we have to find a way to find common ground as a nation, to find solutions which unite us, not solutions which divide us, because solutions which divide us have proven to be no solutions at all.
Do you have specific ideas about how his plan might be effective? I mean, it presumes the elimination of several big tax loopholes to make up for the lost revenue of taxes. I mean, can you think of corporate loopholes that you would eliminate?
Well, there are certainly, I think the entire tax code is much too complicated, much too convoluted, and allows for much too much Houdini-like escaping of paying taxes. I mean, and one of the problems is we have a corporate tax rate which is very uncompetitive. Our corporate tax rate is 35%. In the past 4 years, there have been 70 countries around the globe that have lowered their corporate tax rates. We haven't changed ours since 1988. And that's why Apple is avoiding paying $2.1 billion in taxes, because they're not repatriating their earnings because this country's tax code is way out of whack.
Well, reducing the corporate tax rate, what has been the impact elsewhere where that's been done?
Well, what it does is, surprise, surprise, it attracts business to locate in those countries, to expand in those countries, to hire workers, and to create the kind of jobs that we are so desperately in need of here in the 5th District.
Well, we do need jobs here. So if the corporate tax rates are cut somewhere else and their businesses are encouraged to locate there because the tax rates are better there, isn't that defeating the purpose of creating American jobs?
No. My point is that this country needs to reduce its corporate tax rate so that we can remain competitive in a global economy.
I see.
We are losing jobs because we don't have a competitive tax code, and other countries have recognized that you need to create incentives for American capital to remain here and for the profits that American companies make abroad to be brought back to this country.
Does his pick as the VP make it harder for you to win in Connecticut?
No. I mean, the reality is, Lori, that I've built a record over 18 years of service to the people of this part of Connecticut. Day in and day out, I've done my job working with individuals and communities, solving their problems. So, you know, everyone who knows me, and it's funny because the Democrats in Washington tried to throw the results of the Republican primary, and they spent $200,000 on ads accusing me of being a leftist and unfit to be the Republican nominee. Those ads were still running when the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee put out this piece of propaganda saying that I was a right-wing, on the fringes of the right wing of the party. The reality is neither of those characterizations are true. I've always been faithful to myself, my principles, and I've never been a slave to a party point of view if I thought that it was at odds with what was best for my district.
Are you a Tea Partier?
No, I'm not a Tea Partier, Al. I'm a reasonable Connecticut Republican. What's missing from the national debate and what I intend to bring to Washington, D.C. is the voice of the Connecticut Republican. The monopoly that the Democrats have on power in this state We have 5 Democratic members of Congress, 2 Democratic senators. The governor is a Democrat. Both houses of the General Assembly are controlled by Democrats. That's not a good thing for our state. What I'm going to bring to the halls of Congress is the voice of the old-fashioned, traditional Connecticut Republican who is careful and prudent with the taxpayer's dollar and moderate on social issues. It's a voice that's desperately needed, and this state needs a voice in Washington, D.C. that's part of the majority, and that will help not just people in the 5th District, but all of our state.
So clearly there's going to be a lot of national attention and national money on this race. So you take umbrage with the DCCC ad calling you a Tea Partier. If the NRCC were to run an ad that you knew was patently a mischaracterization of Elizabeth Esty, would you speak out about it?
Well, I mean, I'm speaking to hypotheticals isn't really constructive. I mean, I would obviously react to whatever is put out there, but let the record be clear that the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, before the primary results were even printed, were out there in this poisonous kind of rhetoric. I'm about solutions, not rhetoric. Their rhetoric is exactly what voters are rejecting across the country, and particularly in Connecticut. That kind of rhetoric isn't helpful, particularly against my record, which is so at odds with what they're trying to caricature me as.
Besides lowering the corporate tax rate, what else constitutes a component of your jobs plan? What would you do in Congress to get the American economy back on track and create jobs so people can get back to work?
Well, the reality is the president's health care plan is costing us too much and delivering too little. There have been independent studies which conclude that we will lose 1/2% of all the jobs in this country because of the costs associated with the president's
health
care plan.
So you got the corporate tax rate you want to lower, you want to repeal Obamacare.
And replace it with something, well, obviously energy policy in this country is handicapping us. We're not taking advantage of, this pipeline was something that could have brought a lot of jobs to this country and a lot of energy to this country. So there are a whole host of ways that we can build a stronger foundation. Manufacturing in the 5th District is an area which we need to capitalize on. We have a highly skilled workforce. We have the infrastructure to support manufacturing, and our Congress needs to take steps to make sure that American business is competitive in the world. So there are a whole lot of things on my agenda to bring solid middle-class jobs to people that want to work here in the 5th District, and I'm eager to share those thoughts as the campaign unfolds.
Thanks a lot, Senator. Good to see you here, and I'm sure we'll talk to you a lot over the next couple of months.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Coming up, when we come back, the new head of Connecticut's Airport Authority is here. We're going to get all the answers you want about parking and flights and fares out of Bradley International.